Back here in the beautiful East Boston studios of CLNS Media. Guys, what about Kawhi Leonard? He is maybe, after LeBron James, one of the fascinating, more intriguing stories of this offseason. He could wind up still in L.A. with the Lakers and LeBron, or he could wind up with the Sixers. And maybe there's an outside chance with the Celtics. Where does Kawhi wind up most likely, Jeff?
It's a great question. I mean, I think it's one of those three places just because you're not going to get Kawhi unless you're a contender. You're not going to roll the dice on him, ultimately, unless you're a contender or you're L.A., which is his preferred destination. There are a lot of factors that go into it here. You know, again, if you're Philly or Boston, do you think you have a chance to keep him beyond a year? You just watch what happened with Oklahoma City and Paul George, and it worked out in a sense. I mean, they didn't win, but ultimately they kept Paul George there when nobody thought nobody thought he would stay. So does that give you a little bit? Yeah, but again, how much are you willing to give for a guy that isn't physically right and isn't mentally
We're not
right?
sure he's physically right yet.
Yeah, well, obviously, if he was physically right, he probably would have played at the end of the year.
Right.
And he didn't. And this is a kid who, listen, if there's been one thing about Kawhi that it's always been about, it's work ethic and team. And right now, people are kind of questioning that. Certainly his former teammates are.
That's what gets me. Is like, I don't think any of us know enough about this kid. I mean,
nobody does.
He's so closed off, right? I mean, this was a very uncharacteristic season for him based on all the things you just mentioned. And if you're Danny Ainge, you look at your roster that you've spent however many years since the trade of Brooklyn to build, and you literally are right there now. We just talked about LeBron, going out west, and now the Celtics have, a pretty damn good shot to get to the NBA Finals. Why do you risk blowing that up for a guy that you then need to convince to stay? And that, don't forget, when
you worry about Philly getting him.
So here's the deal.
But even if, let's say they get him, that doesn't automatically tell me that Philly's better than Boston. I think that makes them a lot more competitive with Boston, because I still put Boston ahead of them. But don't forget, Ainge wasn't going to trade for Garnett until he got that commitment. So why would that change now?
Well, first of all, I think the team that winds up with him is the team that's most desperate. And to me, that's easy. It's the 76ers.
Sure.
They lost out on LeBron. They actually used maybe planning that out there with his agent, that they'd go after Kawhi, and maybe that would lure LeBron. Didn't work out, obviously, in terms of the LeBron angle, but with the Sixers, they have the pieces to overspend for Kawhi, and I think the Spurs know that. And to me, that's it has to work on both ends. The Spurs have to, if they're going to trade away Kawhi and move on from him, they have to know that they're going to get a great package in return. And the Sixers, I think, are the team most likely willing to overspend if they can keep Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid.
Yeah, you're obviously not moving either one of them. And if you're the Celtics, who are you moving at the end of the day? I mean, I would personally, trade Jaylen Brown in a deal for Kawhi if I know he's going to stay here, and I'm able to look at his medicals, and everything with his quad seems okay. I would trade Jaylen Brown. I would trade him and Marcus Morris and Marcus Smart after you sign him, and a first-round pick.
There's one name that you're not dealing.
No, I'm not touching Jason Tatum for anybody other than Anthony Davis.
And there's one other I was thinking of, Kyrie.
See, I probably wouldn't, because, again, I don't think you're winning at all with Terry Rozier as your starting point guard. That's why I wouldn't trade Kyrie. Kyrie, the bottom line is Kyrie's still an elite scorer.
Sure.
So I wouldn't trade Kyrie. I'd keep Kyrie. I'd roll the dice that he stays here beyond next year. But the one I would get value, I think his peak value right now is Jaylen Brown. Maybe not peak, but certainly much higher than you ever thought it would be.
Yeah, with Kyrie and Kawhi, I just think you've got a better chance of keeping Kyrie because of the relationship you've already built. And I think, trading a superstar for another superstar and then learning, getting all acclimated all over again, I just don't know if that's counterproductive.
Danny's not going to do that. And look, Danny did say he didn't foresee any major trades coming this summer. And sometimes that's GM speak, sometimes that's Danny speak. But in this case, I think he's legit. I think he's being straightforward there.
I do too. I think he knows he doesn't have to do anything. Right. But if the price falls low enough, how do you not go after Kawhi and roll the dice that you have a chance to maybe beat Golden State this year? I mean, could you think about that starting five, right? If you trade Jaylen Brown in a deal for Kawhi and your starting five is Kyrie, Kawhi, Hayward, Tatum, Horford, with Rozier off the bench as your sixth man, figure the rest out. Baines, whatever. Tice coming back, whatever it is. You like your chances with your 6 against Golden State 6.
Oh, for sure, and I agree. I think Brown is tradable under the right circumstances. I'm not just gonna do a rent to Kawhi though, because I just think that's too much. But
do you have confidence though that if Kawhi was here for a year, that Brad Stevens could find a way? Boy wonder could find a way to keep him here long term,
yeah, I mean,
just because he knows how to deal with people better than anybody I've ever met as a coach at any level in any sport.
I would say, I don't think anyone would have a better chance than he would. Yeah. But I still don't know if Kawhi's just dead set in LA and that's it. Then like I said, the kid's a little bit of a wild card. I don't know what's going on in his head, so it's too big of a risk for me. But I agree, not touching Tatum.
Wherever Kawhi Leonard winds up could dictate how the Eastern Conference or the NBA competitively winds up this year.